of me, but who I am and what I need is something I have to find out myself. I repeat, nobody can teach me who I am. You can describe parts of me, but who I am and what I need is something I have to find out myself. So now I look back and I'm asking myself, and I said, why is it that we don't know about this history? Because the white people came to our continent, took our story and twisted the story and made it in a way that it glorified them as our saviors. And so here is our story, but no aspect of our story has our voices in it. Very, very sad. And for a very long time, we as African people have consciously and unconsciously, knowingly and unknowingly allowed foreign gaze to tell our story. And I think it is high time we come back and reclaim those narratives. And so the Igbo Landing story is one that is very, very powerful. And one of the reasons why I think nobody has told that story because they know that there is no way they can tell that story without highlighting that power. If you like, wash it anywhere. There is no way. And it's funny how you mentioned about how it's mythologized, right? How they want to make it a myth. The first time I saw the story, I saw it was named The Myth of the Flying Africans. That was what I said. It was called The Myth of the Flying
Africans.
Exactly. And so I said, wow, this is very funny. Let me go and see what it's about. And you see Igbo Landing, you see Igbo Landing, you see many names. And even the name Igbo Landing, of course, was given by a white man because there is no account of an actual ancestor who told this story. So all we see on Wikipedia, all we see on Google, all we see on everywhere is one white man who probably a third eye perspective that saw what happened or saw the sites where this took place and then said the story. Because now, who are the ancestors at this? What are their names? Where were they from? We don't know. We don't know. We don't know who they were. How many men, how many women? Where are they from? Are they from Abia or Enugu? Or where are they from? We don't know. What were they speaking? Who were they? What they look like? No picture, nothing. All we know is what the white man gave to us on Google, on Wikipedia. 75 ancestors in Glen County, St. Simon's Island, Georgia. That's all we know. What happened over 2 weeks? They came down and they were singing, the water spirits brought us here. Water spirits
and to take us back to Africa.
Entered the water and drowned. That's all we know. There is nothing else aside this small story. And that is why it is now mythologized and formed into a myth and later, because there is nothing, there is no substantial backstory of these people and this event to tell us, to give us an idea of what it was at that time. So now, because of this thing, there is a need for us as African storytellers and African filmmakers to tell this story in a way that we give life to this story. And so when this was my mindset in 2018. I said to myself, I'm going to tell this story I'm in America now, and this took place in America. So I think I have the power to tell this story in a way that I bring life to these characters. But I was so sad to see just small, tiny bits of the story on Wikipedia. But now, as a filmmaker and as a creative person, I feel like it's my duty to be able to use my creativity and what I found on Wikipedia or whatever to tell this story. And now, to give life, most important, to give life. And when you tell this story and give life to it, it's going to be on the history books forever. It's going to be in people's faces because film never dies. It will be forever. And that is it's one way we can, bring this story and preserve it on the sands of time. Because guess what? I have a friend who told me, who went to the site few weeks ago. She told me that this site is now a private property. You cannot enter. Yes.
A historical site?
Yes. That where that event took place you cannot enter. You can only see it from afar, but you cannot enter where this took place. Yes, a friend of mine told me.
Someone must have acquired the building.
Yes, the space. Yes, you cannot enter. It's now private owned, so you cannot enter that space. But you can from a distance you can see, but you cannot enter and see where that took place, and that's a problem. And so now that place is not a historical site. So now it is, how do we preserve this history? And I asked myself, since if I want to go there, I cannot actually go there and just be in that particular space. I cannot be there because it's privately owned. Now, how do we preserve this history? We can preserve this history by retelling this story and bringing life to it. So now, so 2 years ago, I decided to tell this story and make this film. But again, I couldn't go forward because I was afraid of what people will say about it. I was so scared.
The global backlash.
Exactly. I was so scared of, because when it comes to this, is a very touchy story. And as
sensitive
an Igbo person, I know what I felt when I read that story. And as a filmmaker, I asked myself, why will I be doing stories about other things when I can do a story like this that will bring about? And I look at myself as an Igbo. I left Nigeria in 2018 and I came to Montana. Montana is a white country, white state. There are no black people here. There are very few people. But guess what? When I came here, I've been thriving and I've been surviving. And I asked myself, why am I able to do this thing? Why are Igbo people able to go to a space where there's nobody and they make something out of themselves? Why is it that Nigerians generally too can go to a foreign land and they will make things out of themselves? There's a popular thing that says if you go to any particular place and you don't see an Igbo man or a Nigerian man in that place, run away. And it's true. It's true. So I asked myself, why am I thriving like this in this foreign land? And I remember this Igbo Landing story, and it makes me so happy that I am coming here, even though the storyline is not the same situation, but it's the same story of coming to a particular foreign land and saying, I don't care if there's racism, whatever is going on here, I'm going to fight and thrive and become somebody for myself. And that's what I see going on.
Okay. Now, Nnamdi, I have few questions for you before I want you to weave it into your presentation before I move on to Amarachi Attamah. I see she's online. Amarachi, are you with us? You can wave. You can show us a little bit of your face. Nnamdi, as a filmmaker, it occurred to me now how sad I don't know. I think I'm suddenly sad at your mentioning that property, that place has been acquired as a property, perhaps
private property.
Private property. I think.
What would you have to? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. As a filmmaker, how would you try to recreate Dunbar Creek? I know settings and the props will do the work, but it would have been a kind of catharsis and mental healing for you if you were allowed access into Dunbar Creek to recreate those scenes. Now that it has been acquired, how do you intend to recreate the scene? That's one. Then two, I know you must have seen Alex Haley's The Roots. There is a retelling that I didn't like. Now, the real story says that these slaves arrived Dunbar Creek and they held hands, singing, and walked back into the river and chose drowning. Now, I understand that as a movie maker, there is room for cultural retelling. Now, Alex Haley tried to retell this story, but in the ship, a war or a fight broke out, and then the slaves were eventually overpowered. They arrived subdued, but that was not the real thing. Now, do you also see this narratology as part of the things you are going to try to reconstruct? And finally, why did you choose the name They Chose Water?
Okay, I'm going to start with the let me start with the Alex Haley question. So the thing about Alex Haley's story, I don't think is necessarily the Igbo Landing story, because Alex Haley is his film.
Nnamdi, you're muted.
I don't know, it was muted. I don't know what happened.
Okay, let's go. Yeah.
So Alex Haley's story is not necessarily the Igbo Landing story, because I watched that film. I watched it. It was first made in 1970. It was first made in 1976, something.
76.
And then it was remade in 2016. So I've watched both versions, and I did a research, and I realized that it's not. I thought it was the Igbo Landing story at first. When I did my research, I realized that Alex Haley was tracing his ancestry to Gambia. So the story of Kunta Kinte is a true story of a Gambian slave ancestor who came to America. So it's not the Igbo Landing story. So I did a confirmation. So it's not the Igbo Landing story. It's a different, although the events that happened are quite similar, but it's not the Igbo Landing. Because I had to research and I found out. So it's not the Igbo Landing story. That's for Alex Haley. Then for the first one you asked, unfortunately, I don't know why it was privatized. I don't know the backstory of what led to that. My friend just told me that, and when she told me that, it just broke my heart. But as a filmmaker, I think it's a duty for us to be able to cinematically portray events of a story as authentic as it can be. And one of my biggest goals is to make this film as authentic as it can be, so that when we watch it on the screen, it almost feels like we were there in that ship when everything took place. And so, because obviously filming in big cities are very expensive, so that's one of the reasons why I'm going to be filming in Montana. And Montana is a rural area, very rural. If you come here, there are parts of this place that you see, it looks so much like the South, like what you can see in Georgia or any of the southern areas in America. And so it's very cheap and it's very easy to film. And so that's why I'm going to do it here. I was able to find a creek that looks so much like Dobra Creek in St. Simons Island, Georgia. And I and my crew members, we're going to build a makeshift ship that would look exactly like, we don't even know what the ship looks like in the story, sadly. Because of I'm going to use my creative side and a couple of my friends that are my other filmmakers that are working together on this to be able to recreate the ship and make it look like what it was at that time. And so we are trying to raise funds. We are doing our crowdfunding, and by because we were able to raise all the funds, we'll be able to create the ship in a way that when you see what happens in that story, you feel the empathy of this and the pride of what happens subsequently when our ancestors decide that they're not going to take what they are seeing, but they're going to do what they want to do by drowning themselves. And then finally, to your question about the title.
They chose water.
It chose the sea. That's the title.
They chose, all right.
Yes. And the reason why I chose that title is because I wanted to give a name of the exact action of these people. Again, Igbo Landing is not a name that our ancestors gave. Igbo Landing is the name of the site where this event took place, and it was given possibly by a white man. I don't want to do that. I don't want to take a name, even though it has the name Igbo in it. That's because the white man had to name it exactly what it is. The landing site of Igbo people. The landing site of Igbo people. That's what it is. And Igbo Landing is not our people. It's not the action. It is the name of the site. And maybe they gave the name, they probably named that place just to say, oh, look at where they came, and they give a name, but maybe to make, because it was maybe to turn into a tourist site. Who knows, whatever, why would they give that name that? But it was not a name given to us by our people. So I did not agree to name the film Igbo Landing, because if I use the name Igbo Landing, I am still giving power to the white man. I said that I would rather give the film a title of what our ancestors did, which is what? Choosing the sea as opposed to the option of slavery in a foreign land. So yes,
all right.
Choose the sea is what our ancestors did, which is what they did. They chose the sea.
Okay.
All
right. Beautiful answer. Yes. So we are really running ahead of time. I'm getting beautiful responses here, which I will take our time to read as time goes on. Nnamdi, your presentation has been beautiful, and as a matter of fact, your insistence on changing the narrative is part of that Igbo spirit that I love. That part of that agamepeism, a part of that ayage, you know, that I so much love. We are so much vilified for not wanting to stand in line. You know, what's his name now? Professor Neo Shundare, one of the best poets so far that I so much love, said that why is it that whenever you tell a black man to jump, he will, instead of asking you why, he will tell you how high. But then he turns around to ask to say that, but he doesn't find that trait among Igbo people. Well, the Igbo man wants to know, you're asking me to jump. What if there's a ceiling fan ahead? You want me to be beheaded? So kudos for that. And then I'm going to ask you to wait. I'm going to ask you to wait a bit while I see if I can get across to Amarachi. Meanwhile, Ibrahim Odugbemi, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so Ibrahim, you hold on a bit for Amarachi. Amarachi, Adanwani Igbo Marama, no. Amarachi is one cultural. Yes, Amarachi is one cultural revolutionist that we are all supposed to be proud of. And she reminds me of that, how do I put it, African spirit and strength of Toni Morrison. Yes, whenever I see Amarachi, I liken her to Toni Morrison. Ami, you're welcome. So you are going
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, you are going to be speaking to us on the spirit of Igbo resistance. Why are we like this? Why there's so much I no go agree? Why did we carry it even to a place like America, where even after, because a lot of people do not understand that currently it will take you hours, you know, to get to US by the speed of technology through flight. It could take you a week by sea. Many people didn't understand that because of the first wave of technology then, with all those slow and archaic, outdated machines, roto machines for ships and the rest of them, it took these slave traders almost 3 or 4 months to transport each slave by sea across Africa into the West. Now, imagine the life under a ship cabin, a deck, for 3-4 months. Now, these men got to Dunbar Creek. They weren't tired. They weren't weary. They insisted on revolting. Amarachi, so I want you to talk to us from the perspective of Agamekwe, you know, that republicanism, that inability to sit through operation. We are all ears now.
I greet you all. My name is Amarachi Attamah. I am so many things, but most outstanding is a performance artist. So I hope everyone can hear me well. Okay. Nnamdi, that was amazing. I really enjoyed your presentation, and just like you, I am really curious to know, you know, a lot more about the Igbo Landing story, because like you said, there is no proper documentation and research on the Igbo Landing yet. Maybe I've not seen, but I've not really seen something substantial like that of the Biafra story, where now I have, I think in my collection, I have up to 30 books on Biafra. And I find it fascinating that for each book I read, I find a different perspective, because you can only tell what an elephant is from the side you are looking at it from. So I'm going to start, because I'm a performance artist, I'm going to start with a short piece, because coincidentally, recent, I started working with a theater in Germany on Igbo Landing story. So after I returned from the UK working on the Biafran story, so I got contacted by a theater in Germany working on the Igbo Landing story. And of course, we don't have a lot of Igbo in the theater story. So they wanted to, just like this discussion, understand from the Igbo's perspective now, because it's a live theater, not just to tell the story, but what about the Igbo attitude? What about the Igbo character, the charisma? What about wearing the, because Igbo is not just about Babu Monyi Igbo, like we are deeper than that. For everything an Igbo man or woman is, it has been designed. So the Igbo land used to be a very orderly, from how we swept our compounds, to how we prepared our meals, to how we did every festival, to our deities. everyone had something. So there wasn't something like, oh, this one is a subject and this one is a, that thing came with colonialism, where somebody will be up there in a stool like a god and then others have to be worshiping. No, we didn't have anything like that. So we had Onyo Obunanankia, we had the father, we had the mother, we had the children, and everybody knew what they were, if once they break, everybody knew what they were supposed to do. So I'm going to start with Alabani, Ahapunani Kanifuo. Ndị ichebe anyị gosike na ihe maka na ụzọ gbara ọchịchịrị. Kama anyị ga-akpụ odibo n'ime mkpọrọ, ka anyị lakwuru ekekere anyị o. Mmụọ dị na mmiri duru anyị o. Mmụọ mmiri duru anyị bịa. Mmụọ mmiri dị duru anyị la. So, the story of the Igbo landing, I tend to, because there is no, just like I said, because I've not really seen a lot I want to see on it, I tend to connect the dots. Beautifully enough, I've read a story which actually showcased the rebellion, that there was actually a rebellion and they took over the ship. And then looking back and forth, it's either you go to these people here or the other people here coming behind you, and they choose to know. We won't. Because from the story, I also found out that buying of the Igbo slaves, they were more expensive. So if they were buying others for, say, $2 or $3, Igbo slaves were as much as $100 as at then. Sorry, put your video first. Is my video not showing?
No, you're showing. We can see you.
Okay. So the boat, because Igbo knew how to walk. Of course, I know women. You know, we never believed in a man staying around, a woman staying around. So the energy, this exercise, people shout, naturally we were exercising ourselves. Our land was very, very, very orderly. And so because Igbo were more expensive, they were just too difficult. If you want to really connect that, you look at from the stories of our deities, you look at from the stories of the intertribal, inter-community wars we had in the olden time. You look at colonialism. The Igbo colonialism was the most difficult in this part of the world. It was very difficult for them, and that was why they had to start instilling the warrant chiefs, because they didn't just understand the democracy of Igbo as at then. They were so orderly that they couldn't listen. There was no one person that would listen to. And so when you look at colonialism, you look at other past histories, you look at other things that happened, much of more recent. You look at the About Women riot of 1929. If women in 1929 can revolt and say, we are not paying any damn whatever you're telling us to pay, we won't.
Oh, yeah.
And they went ahead to they didn't just say it and just relax. No, actions was taken, even when people were being killed. Then you look at the coal mine, the Iba Valley coal mine massacre, where the Igbo workers revolted that the entire working principles they gave to them is not working for them. And not just that, their wives coming to ask for their husbands, and then a white man slaps a woman who came to ask for, and the woman raised her hand and slapped him back. So when you connect all this, you see that we are naturally proud people because we know who we are. The Igbo man is created to know who he or she is. From the name, from Mbamologe, that is why you see we even named with the moon, because we work with nature. So we believe if you are born on a certain day, you are actually from either a Keori or Konkwo, and then the names followed it. And then the ceremonies, the Anna, when you are born, they go to Igbo Fakamali Higabu to know what your future would look like. And so when you look at all these recent happenings, even if you cannot really understand the Igbo landing, look at the the recent happenings, the about women rights, the coal mine, even the Asaba massacre after the Biafra war. Then, of course, the Biafra war. Look at people going ahead to fight. They were singing. I watched almost every clip I can find on Biafra war. I'm talking about real war clip documented by Red Cross and other people. So I watch these things, and it is so fascinating, so amazing. I get my strength when I watch how even in that pain, you see them singing, you see them swimming, you see them trying to continue. You see them trying to do whatever it's to take. I saw pictures where they were trying to do some things in bottles. They were trying to, putting things in bottles where they used it to create bombs. Of course, you saw what the Biafra people did in 3 years. The science, the refining their own oil, building of the bunkers and
the rockets and the armored cars.
In 3 years. So if we could do that in 3 years, tell me what we are going to do in 100 years or in 20 years or in 50 years. So they will believe in ahamefuna. It is a principle in the Igbo worldview. Ahamefuna. So that you know who you are. Igbo identity is so important to the Igbo man, to know who you are. And if you know who you are, and who you are starts from knowing your ancestors, knowing your worldview, knowing your culture, your heritage, knowing your belief system. And so if you know all this and know who you are, except, of course, right? So we believe in the principle of ahamefuna. We believe in the principle of egbebere uwobere, right? People went as far as fighting their own chi, their god, when they said, "Oh, na kekeshika." So even if you have a god that is no longer working, is no longer viable, right? Because you know who you are, because you know that there is no need worshiping something that does nothing for you. And so people can revolt against their own chi. White man, black man. So it's about knowing who you are. When people say, "Why do I behave the way I behave?" They call me Abarawai, they call me all sorts. No, it's not because I was born, No. It is from, there is know how you will be reading the Igbo philosophy. When you read these books and find out for everything happening in Igbo, you begin to see that we are not just pushaways. It is difficult. People when you are dealing with Igbo in terms of mother boy, you know how the guys and how the women, that thing in them, you don't. Even if you are given an Igbo 10 billion, but there is how you would treat an Igbo man for those who still have that hamefuna in them, who still have that principle in them, right? Because for the Igbo man, it is about principle. It is about principle. It's not about and that was why of recent I was talking about the gender wahala we had. Igbo and the Igbo women had their own power. There was balance, right? We were never slaves to the men. We were never under No. Because I have gone as far as looking at right? In the principle of dual. No, so when you look at right? Now, when you look at this thing, and there was never a time they said Umada is there. In fact, even in most communities, Umada seems to be more powerful. When they tackle your case, you gonna say you don't enter Igbo trouble, right?
Yes,
so, when I look at the entire Igbo Landing story, of course, like Nnamdi said, we need to do films, we need to write books. In as much as there are things that we need more, we need to tell these stories.
Yes.
Sometimes when I tell the Igbo, when I discuss Biafra, there's something else. Somebody will say, I've never heard something like this. So I say, with all these books everywhere, with all these things, because we need to start telling. That is why anytime you talk about some things, people say, hey, one thing that is universal about Ndi Igbo, that right? It is that and that's why when you quarrel with an Oyibo, I say, new. So if you are not feeding your guy, stay your own. Even if you are
I mean, what's wrong with your audio? Your audio, you're muted or what? I mean, are you there? We seem to be having a little issue with Amarachi's audio. I hope she reconnects back quickly.
that does not mean that you are now my king, So I somehow I've been able to read about.
This could be network.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this could be network. Yes. Nnamdi Kanaga is saying he's inspired by this. We are going to charge him for getting inspiration for his film. Amara, I think your network is disturbing. Okay. Maybe I will try to send her a message, and I'll send her a message and see. She was really on fire. Her presentation, I mean, the dimension she took this thing is something else. Okay, without waiting too much, we are definitely going to have her back, of course. And I've been seeing a lot of input from the audience. I see you, Professor Mo Enne. I see you, Dr. Ndubisi, Anyemeka, Ifeanyi Kalu. I see a lot of you. Madonna
Amara is back.
Is Amara back?
Yes.
No, yeah. So Amara,
Okay.
yes, you still have your audience. You still have your audience, yes.
We're back.
Yeah.
Yes,
oh,
yes.
I quit. With Nnamdi. Agree our stories. Now, visual, it's not just about. I am very.
Can you guys hear Amara?
When they wanted okay to go and work and that's Igbo presence, and I made sure the Asian speak. The Igbo took time, to make. Oh,
our network is really bad.
So is it okay? Is it better now?
We can hear you, but just snapshots of it. It keeps coming and going like Abiku.
I don't know what happened before it went. So okay, because no point talking. Really, did I turn off video? Okay, let me see if I can turn off the video if it is better.
Okay.
So I don't know if it is better now.
Oh yes, you are flowing now.
So I will just it's better, right? Okay. No need, like I said, the language peak and
for once, I feel like sending Amadi into space for Amarachi's network. Oh my God.
The Karina, who is telling story, it's still disturbing.
Yes, but go ahead.
Okay, so he's telling the story. See, that's because that we
okay.
Your parents, what did you in the past, what they did in the past, it helps you to, create an imaginary picture, and it gives you this sense of pride to know that, yes, did you say it's bad?
Continue.
Okay. When you know who you are, when you history, people, you connect our belief them.
It's a lie. Amarachi, hold on. It's a lie. You are doing a very beautiful presentation. There is no way network will deny us this thing. Can you log out and log in again? Network cannot deny us your beautiful presentation. It's impossible today. Please.
You guys,
Amara, are you with us? In the interim, Ibrahim Odugbemi, are you here?
Yes, I'm here, brother.
Okay, so please keep a tab on when Amara returns. We actually need that to finish our presentation because I want it to flow in the sequence so that the listener will be able to flow with the presentation. Is Amara still speaking?
She's in waiting room now. Let's readmit.
Okay. So you're going to help me to monitor when she's in so that you bring her in, because definitely we're going to take Amara again. I mean, I don't mind going through this whole thing over again. Amara needs to speak. Okay, so Chinelo is raising her hand. Okay, Chinelo, we see you. We are going to give you room to ask your question. You can also type it, and then Ibrahim Odugbemi, over to you. I want you to approach our discussion. Okay, let me first of all crack a little joke. So the flyer, when I put it out, one lady was like, Ibrahim Odugbemi is Yoruba. What does he know about Igbo Landing? I said, beautiful. Igbo Landing is in the public domain, and this is one scholar who has serious interest in transatlantic slavery, and who has been studying a lot about Igbo Landing. So Igbo does not practice kinship based on blood relations and relativity. We practice kinship when we have shared interests. So my brother, Ibrahim Odugbemi, I will expect that you do justice to this discussion by approaching the Igbo Landing from the academic perspective with regards to representations in literature and the repositioning of this issue of resistance for cultural agency in light of what is happening in Nigeria now, and genealogically speaking, how that Igbo resistance has affected or impacted on the things that are currently happening in Nigeria with regards to Igbo people's demand for freedom. The floor is yours now.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be invited to this event. Yes, let me start from the angle of your answer to a question raised that I'm Yoruba and all that. This is also a concern for me because my ancestors were also, enslaved.
Yeah.
It's a common experience. It's not just that my Yoruba ancestors, I'm from the Yewa axis of the Yoruba nation, and this is something we really suffered from. We were from the coast area. My ancestors had to move from place to place to, to escape being enslaved, by other tribes, non-Nigerian working for these slave traders and all that. Princess Aino was enslaved and was later freed. She became the queen. She became the goddaughter of the Queen of England. Princess Aino's hometown is just 10 or 15 minutes drive from my hometown. So yeah, that is how much it's a common experience. And apart from that, it's about time we recognize what had divided us, you know, as Black people, as Africans, you know, and work to make amends. A lot of things have gone wrong in the past, you know, and it's about time we started putting things right. Recently, I did the research. It's on, you know, yeah, Karim Baba proposed the theory, generative materialism. You know, and as I was looking at it, generative materialism is not a general theory. Let me put it that way. It's specifically
You should be mindful of the fact that there are people with non-literary interests.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just want to explain it. This is something natural. It's about Nigerians and especially the Yoruba and the Igbo people. You know, it's about the individualism and the sense of liberalism we bring into stuffs, and how that has helped in the involvement of what is now Nollywood. You know, it's about individualism. It's not, you know, we have capitalism, but the way we define it is different. You know, individualism that cannot just be said to be individualism, because when there is need for people to work together, they work together. But let me just say, it's about, you know, respecting human dignity. You know, so when I was reading about it, using, you know, about the theory, I was like, wow, you know, she did this. This is something, it's not just a general theory. The roots, okay, the root is, you know, the southern Nigeria, especially the Yoruba and the Igbo people, you know, who have done so much in the involvement of Nollywood. So this is something we really need to look at. Amarachi talked about, you know, she talked about deities, for instance. It's just like that in the Yoruba nation as well. You could disrespect deities, so to speak. There is no perfection in deities. And that is what marks us different from foreign religions. These are things we need to study. We really need to go back to identifying ourselves in different ways. You know, we should be mindful of how we allow, you know, judgment from Abrahamic religion overshadow our own cultural worldviews. Of course, no culture is perfect, but we still have a lot to learn from our culture. You know, we still have so much to learn. You know, the issue of reducing our forefathers to evils, to devils and all that. We really need to work on all this, you know, before, you know, it's too late. Now, let me go straight to the business. You've tasked me with the responsibility of talking about the global implications of this and how it is represented in the literature. Like in Nnamdi, I learned about Igbo Landing in 2018, sorry, the fall of 2018 to be precise, when I took a course on cinema and decolonization. So one of the films we screened in the course was Julie Dash's Daughters of the Dust. Daughters of the
Oh, yeah.
Was
Daughters
in,
of the Dust. Yeah.
1991, and the setting is part of the setting is Igbo Landing. So that was when I first learned about it, and it was, you know, wow, this is surprising. And since then, I've always been reading about it and, you know, doing one research or the other. Yeah. I see Igbo Landing as you know, it's not just about it's not just a resistance struggle. It's not just a resistance struggle. It's a struggle to protect human dignity. That is how I see it. It's not just about, you know, resistance might mean trying to break law and all that. It's about human dignity, you know. It's about the weak trying all their best, you know, playing all their cards to make sure they are not oppressed by the powerful. That is what it is, you know. So the last card those forefathers of us had was to commit suicide. That was their last card, and they just played it, you know, rather than submitting to slavery. So it's an important moment, you know, in the history of transatlantic slavery, and we should be quick to connect this to Olaudah Equinos as well. Olaudah Equinos might not be the first author of a slave narrative, but he is acknowledged to be the first author of a self-written slave narrative.
Okay.
Self-written, And in it, he was clear in his condemnation of slavery. Some try to say, well, it's not Igbo, it's not this, it's not that, but he said he is from Igbo land. He gave clear pictures of everything. Talk about, the orderliness of life among the Igbo people and other tribes in West Africa and all that, compared to what he was facing in the United States. And, just look at Orlando Ekwano. He came here as a slave, yet he was able to make something out of himself. And he continued to fight for the enslaved. He wrote his slave narrative in 1789, right? And he also did other stuff, that must have contributed to some political moves that took part. Because by 1791 or so, let me be sure of the date. Yes, by 1791, the US government had already enacted a law that limited the participation of the United States in international slavery. So by 1794, actually, after 1794, there shouldn't be new slave ships coming from Africa. Slavery was still on, but there was a ban on the international participation of the United States, such that new slave ships shouldn't come in. So the slave ship that brought the enslaved, I don't like to use Igbo slaves, or African slaves. These are enslaved. These were enslaved people. They were not slaves. They were not slaves. They were not born slaves.
Powerful.
No one is born slaves for that matter. And there is even a proverb in Yoruba that no birth is greater than another birth. A slave is giving birth to just like a freeborn is giving birth to. So there is really no slave. The word slave, especially as transatlantic slave traders made us see it, is it's so negative that I don't like to call this forefather slave, African slaves. They were enslaved, they were made slaves. So by 1794, there was already that law. So the ship that now in the literature, more researches are coming up, more findings are coming up. Don't let us forget the fact that until recently, African Americans as well are not well represented, in the literary world. So me, until the Second Renaissance, which was in 1965, yeah, until the Second Renaissance, which was in 1965 upward, the Black Art era.
Amara, we hear your voice, so Ibrahim, can you try me? Okay, good.
So until the Black Art era, there was very insignificant representation of African Americans, Black people. So that's why you see that works from the Black Art era were not just representing African Americans in literature, They are also so much connected to their African roots. And it was also in the Black Art era that that we had activists like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., and all that.
Oh, yeah.
From 1965 upward, a lot began to happen in the African-American literary scenes. Researches were going on and all that, so that it also had effects on history. Before this point, history was also, the history of America was also the history of the white man. So from the 1970s, a new aspect of history began in the United States, and that is public history, polyvocal history, democratized history that allowed Black people to begin telling their own stories. They begin consulting archives, making researches and all that. But even with that, before this point, there was this group of African Americans that were really preserving the story of Igbo Landing through oral traditions and all that. And these are the Gola people. The Gola people are found in Georgia, in South Carolina, and all that. So the site of Igbo, the Igbo Landing site is actually part of the Gola territory. Gola are African Americans, you know, but they have this Creole that has so much African languages in it, including Igbo. So the Gola people, have enslaved Igbo as their direct ancestors. So they have so much to say, and we now have recent concrete findings. For example, we now know the name of the ship. The name of the ship is the Wanderer. The Wanderer brought, according to a record, which is you know, a very substantial one. The Wanderer brought 409 enslaved Igbos to the United States. Not just the 75, 409. So when they got to the island, they wanted, and don't let us forget, at this time, it was 1803. This was like 6 years, right, after the passing of the Slave Trade Act, which banned the US from participating in international slavery. So the Wanderer was an illegal slave ship, according to what direct descendants of these Igbo enslaved Igbo people are now telling us. So it was an illegal slave ship. So after they brought them to that site, they now wanted to start transporting them through boat, transporting them to different plantations. So
yeah, different white-owned plantations.
So the 75 Igbos that decided to revolt were being transported as well on a boat. So when you check online, you see the picture of a broken boat. Perhaps yes. It was that boat, yeah. So 409 of them, imagine, 409. We are talking about not just 409 from Africa, 409 that survived the Middle Passage.
Meaning that there were more numbers.
Yeah. So 409 survived the Middle Passage, you know. So we have these 75 who refused, you know, that they would not be part of this. So with that now, it's a big fat lie to say it's a myth, because we have direct as descendants of, you know, of the enslaved, you know, minus the 75 out of the 409 that are now telling the stories. So Igbo Landing, since the 1980s, has been very important in African American history and literature, and that is why we have it being represented in Julius Dutch, Daughters of the Dust. This was her name. I can't remember her name now.
Toni Morrison had something about it in Songs of Solomon.
Yes.
Okay.
An American of 18 origin also sang about it. A very beautiful song, Igbo Landing.
Yes.
So what is important to me now about this story is that, you know, it needs more representation, you know. It needs more representation because it is definitely, it is definitely a way of tracing, as you pointed out earlier, of tracing the route, the journey of the Igbo people in global capitalism, and global, polity.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
I wanted to ask you about, you are in Bloomington, yes, you are in Indiana, yes. Okay, so now, the environment where you stay, are there direct descendants of Igbo slaves who could, or the Igbo enslaved, like you pointed out now, who could help you with more mouth-to-mouth oral tale about, perhaps, because of course our African people are good with handing down tales. So even in our inability to document things, we have such stories that we carry in us? Are there people you've been able to come across who could, actually point to this fact that, yes, it is beyond myth, it's actually true?
Well, Indiana is in the Midwest, so that is a bit hard for me. We could get someone in the south of the United States, places like Georgia, Florida, that might do that, Indiana is in the Midwest, is very far. But then I'm in touch with some public historians, public historians, who have this record, and also archivists. It's really not something hard to get these days, because African American literature and history is becoming stronger. Every day new facts keep coming up. For example, we know the name of the ship, we know it was illegal and all that. So yeah, that's what I can say about that. But as I was saying earlier, we should think about how they situate the Igbo people in global capitalism, in the history of global capitalism, and that is what is important. And of course, how they've been reacting to it, people deciding to give up their lives instead of being enslaved. It's really speak a lot, and it's not surprising. Yes, as we've all said, it's not surprising that that kind of spirit still continues today. Yeah, that is republicanism. That was what the French did when they revolted against their monarch, but they did not want it to work in Africa because the continent must remain enslaved. When people talk about Igbo individualism, as I said earlier, it's not even just about the individualism. When I was in Gombe State, I was in Gombe State when I was 2015. I was in Gombe State for 3 months. Biliri, that's the second largest state in Gombe State. At that time, Boko Haram, this and that was everywhere. But my mind was at peace because at least there was one Igbo trader in Biliri. So, yes, so you can't say there is war anywhere you see find an Igbo, So it's only, I'm serious about this, I'm not trying to flatter you people. It's only when the last Igbo leaves that you can be sure that your life is not safe.
Damn.
Yeah, it's only when the last Igbo leaves that you can be sure this place is not safe.
I actually feel flattered on behalf of Igbo people.
Yeah, so that is it. I have a friend who's skilled in Niger, and he was telling me about Igbo traders in Niger doing this, doing that. These Igbos are everywhere, and that is the sense of liberalism, It's the sense of seeking. It's about live and let live, It's about
not wanting to be enslaved.
Yeah, it's about live and let live, pursuing justice, and that is the problem we have in what the place called Nigeria now, and why it is a big mess. Nigeria has been living in negative peace. It cannot be sustained. Negative peace is about silencing people. Martin Luther King talks about it in his letter from Birmingham prison, Birmingham jail. One of his documents, literary and historical documents. So negative peace is about order, it's about silencing people not to talk, but positive peace is about justice. Where there is justice, there will be peace automatically, Where there is no justice, you can't expect love, you can't expect friendship. It's not possible. We are all humans, So that is what I think the Igbo people have always been pursuing, and what we now crudely tag as individualism, because the individualism becomes questionable when we now see how the Igbo apprenticeship system operated. By the way, Igbo apprenticeship system is now something big, in global, in the global academia. Recently, Professor Ndibusi wrote a paper about it, published by Harvard. It's not becoming something big. I think they are doing a conference about it
Of course, it is worth it.
In the United Kingdom and all that. Thanks to Igbo apprenticeship system, the Nigerian economy would have collapsed. That is just the truth.
Fact.
Paper trade and all that. Nollywood. Let's now try to come to something formal. Nollywood. Yeah. Could there have still been a Nigerian economy without Nollywood? Nollywood is perhaps the height of Nigerians bringing informal structure to an industry that is supposed to be formal. Nollywood is perhaps the height of it. You get the point. Nollywood is perhaps the height of it. Nollywood grew out of Western capitalist pressure. They wanted to dominate the film market. Yet every step they took to dominate the film market was always repelled. You get the point now. Every step they took was always repelled, because it's the individualism. No one, you can't just dominate. It's not possible, It's about less and less live. Let's live and let's live,
Yeah.
You see how, for instance, they dominated filmmaking in Francophone Africa. So Nollywood is just, in fact, Nollywood is Nollywood. It is original. It is African. That is the only wood, that doesn't copy anything from Western filmmaking structure. If you look at Bollywood is about representing fair, light skin, superhuman. You get it?
Yeah.
So that is how much this spirit of individualism could go. So now back to Igbo Landing. So Igbo Landing, when we take about
I was actually going to tell you that you have 2 or 3 minutes to round up.
Okay,
so that
thank you. So we should think about Igbo Landing as we should see it as a sort of strength. It's a source of strength. It's about doing everything possible to protect human dignity. That is it. Yorubas would say something, whether you talk against injustice, you will die. Whether you talk or you don't talk against injustice, you will die. So why not talk against it?
Please say it to Yoruba. I want my audience to laugh.
Well, it's something, bawi amaku. It simply means whether we talk, we will die. Whether we don't talk, we will die. So why not talk?
What is Ajeku Yanoje, the popular song by our dear senator?
No. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that behind the screen. So this is about protecting human dignity,
Okay, yeah.
That is what it is. It's not just about resistance, And I think that is what, that is what the Nigerian state must learn, People cannot give up their dignity. It's not possible. It's like a moral responsibility. It's a moral responsibility.
Yes, it's a moral responsibility. Yes, Ibrahim. Thank you very much for your presentation. We've not had the last of you because I already have a question for you here, which I will present when we enter the Q&A. I want you to please quickly see if you can unmute Amarachi and see if she's back online. We could take 1 or 2 things from her before we do Q&A and wrap up. And to the audience, you've been wonderful. If you have any question, please do type it out here, or you raise your hand. I could give you room to throw your question. It will do us a lot of good if you type it out. Actually, I'll receive all of them and then address it to the particular speaker that you want to give you the answers. While we wait for Amarachi.
So Amarachi is unmuted.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know if sorry about my network.
There is no problem at all, but we have a little punishment for you. Are you willing? The song you started with actually sent shivers down my spine. Can you do that song again before you pick up from where you stopped?
Okay. Ọnwụ mepa ka gị nabata anyị yo. Alaba anyị ahapụla anyị ka anyị fuo. Ndị nchebe anyị gosi ike n'anyị ihe maka na ụzọ gbara ọchịchịrị. Kama anyị ga-abụ odibo n'ime mkpọrọ, ka anyị lakwuru ekekere anyị o. Mmụọ dị na mmiri dula anyị o. And of course, mmụọ mmiri dutere anyị, mmụọ mmiri ga-edula anyị na. So I will just summarize sort of.
Yes,
because
yes, you have 5 minutes because we will have questions, of course.
Okay, so like I said, I have seen few books. Like Nnamdi said, most of our history, you find out that it's always written by a foreigner. I think I've seen Igbo Landing by Carl Waters and Isha Bracey. But I've really not seen Igbo Landing story really by Okeko Okafor. You know, when we are the ones telling our own story, because like it is said, until the monkey or the lion tell their own story, the story would always glorify the hunter. So sometimes we need to tell our story. And when I started researching, when I started this whole cultural journey, and I started, because my grandmother was a very powerful figure, and I couldn't understand how, looking at what we see now as culture and Igbo culture, okay, right? How people try to use every opportunity to say, oh, this one is should be subdued, this one shouldn't be. I started reading. When I read it, I read the Bible. I was like, is this really our worldview? What we see now? And then that led me into researching very well on the Igbo worldview and Igbo perspective, from looking at from our dating system, our birth, our marriage, and all that. I started seeing a whole lot of festivals and will I say activities done when a child is born, which helps in building the child. And that is why I am Emihana for Igbo Alpha. So that when there is something will happen and you begin to sit there, let me find out why, because this is not supposed to be. Right? Yes. So like Ibrahim just spoke, the principle of human dignity. There was a time I was discussing a name, I think Christian Wokibo's name with someone. I say, Ife Kando. What is it that Kando? Kedihega Kando, right? Makana is Nandu Bisi Ndoka. But so I think I can't remember who I really discussed that name. I say, Ife Kando. Bu onwu ife kandu bu onwu nwe ubu. That is, instead of living a shameful life, let me die with dignity. Honorable death. Let me die. Because for the Igbo man, if you really, really understand the Igbo man, how he dies is important to him. It's not just about dying. Of course, we know everybody's going to die, but how did I die? Because there's how somebody would die and they say, that is why you see that in the olden time, how someone's died or the scenario leading to someone's death will also play on how the person is buried and where the person is buried. Like if you commit suicide, it's an abomination, right? So death with dignity meant a whole lot for us. We believe in when you die, you go to the other realm, right? And you can actually have the opportunity to come back in reincarnation.
Oh, yes.
So, but if you die a shameful death, who will be proud to say, okay, I am the reincarnation of Agbala Nwankwo, when Agbala Nwankwo died a very shameful death? Of course. So how the Igbo man dies is very important to the Igbo man. So if we really dig into the Igbo perspective and our cultural worldview, we will begin to understand the plight, like Ibrahim said, of the enslaved. Now, when you listen to my song, I say, "Kamanga bo dibo, nime nkoro." Now it's not enough that the Nahanos Nime Nkoro going to be enslaved, but they will be enslaved and then be slaved inside that prison again, because that is not their land. But I was also fascinated when I read the story of Alaudo, who was recorded as the first Black slave to buy back his freedom, and he was an Igbo man. He was recorded as the first Black slave to buy back his freedom with cash.
Yeah,
And
it's
he got back his freedom. And he is an Igbo man. So when you dig into your world view and this belief system, you begin to understand the Igbo name Madukako. You begin to understand Nwakego in the names we answered, so that you will know that your dignity is everything and you should protect it.
Ogbenyalo is a name I want is a name I want the whole Igbo to explain to me. That name is something
Some
else.
of those things are recent in creations. Or some of those things is recent creation, because look at it. In the olden time, the Igbo women held the economic power. They did the marketing, the trading. So they had the money, the cowries, the ego malina, even the kalama when the white man started coming. They are the ones that got these things. So they held the money, and their men had their farms and their yam barns. They, of course, you know, the Igbo man's pride was the size of his yam barn and his food barn in general. So if the Igbo woman can have, because when God meant really nothing as such, it was your dignity. Because that was why even a hunter had his dignity. And that is why you see something like Diochi, DG, D. So it is an expert in your own field. And if you are Diochi or DG or D whatever, your dignity, your respect, your regard will be accorded to you. Right? So it didn't matter what you did, as long as you had your dignity, as long as as long as when men are talking, you are also talking because your hands are clean. As long as you had your dignity. When you die, and people ask why the way we bury the dead, we respect even the dead body. We don't desecrate a dead body. So we believe in that human dignity, even in death. So the Igbo man protects his dignity, even in death. And that is why the way we handle dead bodies is different from how you would see it, in every other place. So generally, I would just say, because I am talking of this from not the historical part, but from the cultural world, just like Kipes Nachi gave me the assignment, let us all go back and try, even if it is once in a month, dig into your worldview and belief system. And I will tell you, when you are walking, you'll be walking with all pride. You will walk with your shoulders high, because
all right. Amarachi, thank you very much. So thank you. But please do not exit, or else you will see me in your room this evening beating you up and down. You are going to give us that song again, and you are going to perform that song. Nnamdi, are you with us? You should consider weaving this song into your film.
I was going to reach out to her afterwards. I think I really like it.
Nnamdi, you will pay me and you will pay Amarachi.
Oh yes, I have song. I'm going to reach out to her afterwards. We'll talk. I like it so much.
And with this song, your film is going to be sweet. Amarachi, we've gotten you a link to send the song.
I'll reach out.
Okay, so Ibrahim, are you with us?
I'm here.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to try to tie up the loose ends and then take one or two questions, and then we'll call it a day. It has been a beautiful audience here and the discussion. Now, Nnamdi spoke about the Igbo resistance from the film perspective and its representation in film. Ibrahim spoke from the literary perspective and its implication in modern narratology. Amarachi as well spoke from the cultural perspective, why the Igbo are the way they are. So I would really say my own 2 pence here would be, the Igbo man is the kind of person who The Igbo man is like oil. When you try to mix it with an external thing that is not oil, water, for instance, the first thing it will do will be to revolt. Now, I have seen, you know, I was telling you, Ibrahim, the other time we were chatting, I say a lot of us are yet to connect why Professor Moene has a book that is in the offing, he's trying to publish, where he traced the connection between Aba Women's Riot and the date, and that of the Iva Valley shooting, the coal miners, and how they played major roles in the polemics and the campaign for Nigeria's independence. Now, Nnamdi is trying to make a movie, and then we all know about the Igbo Landing being something, even though the specific date of that incident is yet to, we are yet to agree on a specific date, but May is May. And so we do not know about, like the poet T.S. Eliot to say, April being the cruelest month and all that. So for the Igbo, we might as well begin to talk about a lot of things in May and what May means, you know. Now, the global resistance we are discussing about the Igbo resistance here, or the global implications, sorry, you look at this thing happened in May 1803. That was 218 years ago. Then in May 1967, Ojukwu declared Biafra. Recently, the IPOB led by Nnamdi Kanaga and also the MASOB, the Igbo Zionist movement, and other people, that making sure that every May 30th is Igbo Biafra Remembrance Day and all that. So what does the Igbo spirit of resistance has to do with May? And why do we have a long history of ancestors who are always saying no to something? Now, Amarachi got me scared when she talked about the way Igbo die is the way you will be buried, which is true. The man who dies a shameful death can never be accorded the same respect and funeral rights as the man who died a hero. Yes, but then it is going to necessitate an argument from what I want to say, in the sense that look at things fall apart and why Okonkwo chose death, despite his knowledge of the implications of the way he has planned to die. I mean, this man has returned from Banta, and that's from exile after 7 years. And he's seeing what is happening in the warfare. And he was like, goodness me, how can we live with this kind of a thing? Is this actually going to happen to us? Even though his father is not somebody he's proud of. And in things fall apart, I feel Onoka's death is more shameful than that of Okonkwo, you know. But then the Igbo do not accord much respect to an abominable death like suicide, the one which Okonkwo carried out. But even the Igbo Landing, we are celebrating men who died by suicide. And the difference is here. The events that necessitated their death, their choice of the way to die. So it is the same white man. Okonkwo was resisting a white man in Igbo land. These 75 elders were resisting white men in Oyibo land. Okonkwo chose death by hanging himself, suicide. These men chose death by drowning themselves, suicide. I'm trying to piece these connections. I'm trying to piece them together. And why, despite the Nigerian military brandishes every day in Igbo land, the young men are willing to be caught by the bullets only for them to send the message that enough is enough. So the Ainogogreism, the Agamepeism, is born in that Igbo man's lifestyle of always wanting to have a say. That is why the Nigerian politics have always tried to make it look as if Igbos do not play good politics. And then the Igbo will now say, Igbo enweze. Igbo enweze, meaning that the Igbo has no respect or need for kings. It is not our adulation of our indiscipline or anarchy or our inability to accept being guided. It is because because you do not know who is who. You do not know who is leading you. Now, this young has been able to garner followers because a lot of people actually believe in him, not just because of what he's saying, but because of his consistency. Because over time, a lot of people have started this movement, have given up halfway. Either they were demoralized by the backlashes, or they eventually received bribe and left. But this young man has not even paid heed to any of these things. And the Igbo youth are beginning to pay attention to him. It is not born out of the need to Lord Nnamdi Kanaga. It is because these young men are seeing somebody who has refused to be compromised. So the Igbo actually have kings, or they would follow if there is a leader who is sure of himself, that Igbo dignity, you know. So the Igbo resistance, in a nutshell, is something that is interwoven into the Igbo man's DNA. That reason why we'll go to a slum and we'll turn it to a big city. The same reason for which an Igbo man will sit and you come in and make a declaration. He will say, Onediregi, who sent you? The administrative system of the olden Igbo, where we do not have a king making a declaration from somewhere. We will actually have a meeting of the oldest men in each hamlet. And when they don't even pass proclamations there, they first of all deliberate. Then these old men go back to their hamlets and tell his kinsmen, look, this is what they said we should do, or this is what we have suggested we're going to do. What do you people think? By the time each of these old men return from going to sound out their kinsmen, they come in and vote. The majority of the people's opinion carries the day. And when people talk about democracy and how when people talk about democracy and how the, one white man, please, Locke or whatever is his name, propounded democracy, I laugh. Igbo has been practicing democracy before the first white man dreamt of entering the boat. And we call our own Ohakarasi. Ohakarasi, the people said, the government of the people, a form of representative government where people's opinion are collected and the majority's voice are heard. So yes, it has been a wonderful outing and I am super, 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 super delighted. I must thank Amarachi for making our time, you know, despite the very short notice. As a matter of fact, Nnamdi Kanaga was co-opted into this very outing about 2 days ago, with the speed with which he accepted, because he was eager to share his view about what he has seen, you know, and then also to let us know that, yes, there is somebody somewhere who is beginning to rewrite the narrative. The story would actually be sweet when we tell it. And most of all, I would like to thank Ibrahim Odugbemi. Ibrahim called me on phone about 3 days ago and was like, are we not going to do something about Igbo Landing? He used the word or the term we, meaning that he is actually part of us. And this program is a success because of his huge resources and contribution to it. So before we call it a day, there is a question from Ndubisi and Yemeka, and it's directed to Ibrahim Odugbemi. He said, the global capitalism you talked about. Ibrahim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
He said, the global capitalism you talked about, should it not as well include the pre-Atlantic capitalism, like the economic complicity of some Igbos that enabled this global capitalism?
Yeah.
Should I take it again?
I got it. In fact, I
okay,
have it.
Yeah, because Amarachi actually said a little thing about it. So yes. Briefly take us on that answer so that I will tell Amara to wrap up with that song.
I was in fact.
And meanwhile, to the audience, please, if you have more questions, put them up here now so that we can take them and then wrap it up.
Yes, thank you, big brother Undubisi Martin, for this question. Yeah, I think it might be a hard word to use, economic complicity, for our people, you know. Igbos, you know, when the white man came, of course, they did not come for slavery at first. It was for business, actually, you know, when the Portuguese came and all that. And in fact, when the first set of enslaved Africans were taken to the US, they were not taken as slaves. They were taken as indented laborers, you know, people that would work, like serving your master for some time, you will be paid and all that. So it wasn't complicity. It was a matter of partnership, you know. These people came, we welcomed them, it was business. I think at some point in places like Benin, it was pepper, habanero pepper, you know, vegetables, you know, it was just business. That was what they came for at first, you know. But well, maybe it's an English thing, it's an English blood, societal stratification. They cheated us out of everything. Let it be known that before slavery, before the enslavement of Africans in what is now the US, the English people, you know, this is just all about the English people. They were the one everywhere. Australia, now you have you know, Australia was originally owned by Aborigines, you know, Black people, you know. It was these English people that also came to the United States. When they came at first, they were actually using the Irish, you know. So for us Black people, I think we are even lucky that we are still able to preserve a lot about us. Irish language is now lost. What is now the United Kingdom is made up of how many countries? These are people that have been stripped of their identity. The Scottish, the Welsh, you know, these are not English people. We all know the roots of the English people, the Anglo-Saxons.
Of course,
you know? Yes. So the English were first using Irish. It was the Irish they were using to do all these art jobs at first, before they turned to Africa. You get the point? So they cheated us out of this, out of the growing global capitalism of that time through weapons. They had sophisticated weapons, you know.
Exactly.
That was it. The first technologist in the Yoruba land at that time, you know, was just able to do cutlasses and all that. Ogun himself, that we now call the god of iron. You get the point? So they cheated us out of the system. That was just it. We were talking about people with guns. They would kill you if you don't comply. So, and another thing is, if we also want to talk about complicity in terms of some people selling out other Black people, you know, and that brings us to the larger argument of slaves. Some people would even say, even in the Bible, you know, there were mentions of slaves, Abraham's slaves and everything. Yes, in any society, there will be stratification, socioeconomic stratification. So there have always been slaves, but slavery in the sense we had in transatlantic slavery had never been witnessed, you know. Nnamdi Kanaga talks about it in his book. When he was first sold to some African masters, they were more or less treating him as children. You know, go to African histories. Our, you know, kings used to use slaves as part of their soldiers, you know, and all that. Slaves at that time were more or less like, you know, indented laborers. Let me just use that. You know, not slaves not slavery in the sense of large-scale production, you know.
Yeah,
so you know, transatlantic slavery is just like people trying to evade tax now. You are trying to cut short. You are trying to, labor is one of those factors, is one of the factors of production. Now you are trying to minimize cost in that respect. You get the point. They were just trying to minimize cost. Once you have free labor, it means you would have more profits. You don't have to pay these people. So they cheated us out of it using guns. You know, it wasn't complicity. So I was talking about slavery being not something new. So I'm not trying to make excuse for those Africans selling these people to the white people, but I think they were acting from their perspective of what slavery is. It wasn't about forcing people, reducing people to animals, you know. We did not have that sense. I don't think any other part of the world had that sense of slavery. You know,
Okay. Okay. I think you've done justice to the question. Then there is another question for you, but briefly to Nnamdi. Nnamdi, are you with us? Hello, Nnamdi, are you here? Okay. I wanted to ask Nnamdi this question, but it seems he's briefly unavailable. So Ibrahim, please, there is a very urgent question. There's an urgent question here for you, but you are going to take it as quickly as possible because I want us to end in the next 2 minutes. Okay, Nnamdi says he's here. So Nnamdi, your question is, you are going to be very brief also, like in 30 seconds or 1 minute. Now, Madonna Chinwendu is asking you, how do we tell the story in a white man's land? How do we tell the story in a white man's land in accordance to your demand for input by people? So can you hear us, Nnamdi?
Yeah.
So how do we tell this story in a white man's land? According to, how do you want people to be able to help, especially as you are trying to build up a very good film about this? Just a very short answer.
That's the answer quickly is to tell it. That's all. Whatever you think you want to contribute to it, because nobody will tell the story for us except ourselves. Amarachi mentioned something that Chinua Achebe said, and he simply said it, until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Now we are all coming together as historians. You know the story. How do you want to impute the story? Send me a DM, ideas, whatever you want to help to flesh in the story, and we'll all come together to tell the story, because what I know is this story must and will be told. So however we want to tell it, we'll tell it. That's just
okay. It. Okay. So Nnamdi Kanaga is on Facebook. Nnamdi Kanaga is also on Twitter and Instagram. Amarachi is on Facebook as Amarachi Attamah. She's also on Twitter and Instagram. Ibrahim Odugbemi is on Facebook as Ibrahim Odugbemi. He's also on Twitter and Instagram. I am Ifesina Chumadike. I am also on Facebook and Instagram, where I look for a lot of troubles. So Suleiman Mikhail Abiola is asking Ibrahim Odugbemi. He said, Ibrahim, can you please draw a line between the colonization of African countries and the Americans by the English people in light of development? He adds an addendum that said, do we say there is something inherently wrong in this part of the world when it comes to the indices of development, qualitatively and quantitatively? So Ibrahim, just 1 minute, just give him a very brief answer.
That's a philosopher asking a very hard question. But let me just say that we can't say there is anything wrong. Yeah, we can't say there is anything wrong. You know, civilization started with, you know, according to anthropologists, okay, any people that have religion or a ritual system of civilization, that does it. That is what's
okay.
Civilized. A religious system, or, you know, a sort of ritual, because ritual or religion is the first phase in human civilization. That was the social institution that, it was through that social institution we began giving answers to many things. Why is this thing like this? Why is this like this? This thing is wrong. How do we do it? You know, my Yoruba forefathers and foremothers were already practicing medicine, economy, but attaching everything to a sort of religion. You know, so were the Igbo people, because at that time, that was how we could explain it. I earlier called Ogun a technologist. Ogun was a blacksmith. We know where he came from. You get the point? So he was able to develop that skills. There was no way we could explain it. You know, we deify him. You get the point? So that is what any people need to be civilized. You know, the Native Americans, the original owners of what is now the United States and many other parts of North America, they had it. You know, so as I earlier said, this was just a matter of cheating people out, you know.
Of the global economy.
Yes, it was just a matter of cheating people out. And if we go to trace this, will also require going far into the history of the English people themselves. They also 200 years of of colonialism by the French, and they came out of it strong and maybe wicked and all that. We are seeing that in other parts of the world today as well. You know, you see people come out of oppression and they become more wicked. You know, you expect them to be fine. Yeah, we know a lot of oppression and here and there that China is committing. There was a time that the British, the French, and many other European superpowers were forcing Chinese people to take hard drugs. Economy, you know, that is how much man's inhumanity to man is. Now China is powerful and they're also oppressing other people. And the world is preparing for terror. You get the point. So maybe that is just it. It's very hard to find a question, but Mikhail, it's not, how do we define development, you know? How do we define development? You know, development, when we look at this thing, it shouldn't be from the Western perspective, from the Western angle, mottos, this and that. There was life when we did not have all these things. And that is the point. There was life when we did not have all these things. And the relationship could have been done through, you know, other more peaceful and more, you know, through other better means. And they knew it, but they refused to. So it wasn't because these people were not developed. So it was just a matter of taking advantage of people through the, you know, through the gun. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of you, my speakers who I bundled up. It shows how much you people love me. I mean, I know a lot of you that will not agree to speak with the short notice I gave. And Ibrahim, I will write your name in gold. God bless you. God bless you, Nnamdi Kanaga. God bless you, Amarachi Attamah. Amarachi, please hold on. You're ending this session with that song again. Professor Mo joined from the beginning. I mean, this is a professor who has classes and writings to do. He joined from the beginning and he's here. He's been contributing. Charles Obu, Hilary, Monachi, Dr. Ndubisi Martins, and Emeka Malik, Madonna Chinwemdo, so many of you, Anderson. I mean, these are even the names I can recall from here. There are a lot of you people that joined that. Man, I'm like, are you serious? For once, I never knew that I could pull this crowd within a short period of time. And so a lot of you, Sunday Chukwu, Chigozie, and Amadi Chibike, Obiora, you guys are demanding we should have more and more of this. Of course, like I said in the opening section, that this is just the inaugural or the maiden edition. I do not want to preempt some friends who are already planning something for what's this young man now? Bruce Mayrock. Bruce Mayrock, the young man who set himself, the American teenager that set himself on fire during the Biafra War. But of course, subsequently, we are going to pull other Igbo historical happenstances that a lot of people are trying to forget and bring them in perspective so that the youths will learn. So having said that, I will, yes, okay, Ikechukwu is demanding for Amarachi's contact. I'll give that to you. Amarachi, one name why. What you are doing in Igbo land is only God that will repay you. Please take us on that song. And after that song, we'll take everyone off. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And Professor Mo, I am already ordering for your book. I really need to read that book. I am so fascinated with the works of Professor Mo. I hope that this is my professor that I admire too much. Being here, listening to me, I hope I will not have a class later. Thank you. I love this. I love the speech of Ndubisi and Ibrahim. Thank you so much. Though, Ibrahim, there's something you mentioned. I think that would lead to another discussion much later. You said the colonialists didn't come for slavery or whatever, they came for business. Yes, I don't know if I would say that. What if I argue that would be
a lie? I will set up another.
That could be a narrative, a sold narrative. Perhaps we'll have an argument
set up
on that
another
later.
meeting. Yes, yes. Please sing that song and let us go.
All right. Oh, meta gina batanyo alabani ahapuni ka anyị fuo. Ndị ichie ebe anyị gosikere anyị ihe maka na ụzọ gbara ọchịchịrị. Kama anyị ga-abụ odibo n'ime mkpọrọ, ka anyị lakwuru ekekere anyị o. Mmụọ dị na mmiri dula anyị o. Mmụọ mmiri dutere anyị. Mmụọ mmiri ga-eduru anyị laa. Mmụọ mmiri dutere anyị. Mmụọ mmiri ga-eduru anyị laa.
You say, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so Ibrahim, thank you everyone, and God bless you. So we'll call it a day, and we'll continue from where we stopped some other time. God bless you guys.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Ciao, ciao.
Yeah. So people are just joining.